Hey folks, I want to introduce you today to the ALLWEI PPS2400 power station. Now this power station has a 2048 watt-hour battery, so this unit should last you a very long time. It has three 120 volt plugs and a 30 amp plug as well for your camper, which I did test today. With its 2400 watt pure sine wave inverter, you can run actually quite a few things with it, including the air conditioning unit on my camper. I was kind of wondering if one of these would actually do that. They put these plugs here for RVs, and I thought, would it really run my camper's air conditioning? Well, folks, it did. Now, I would imagine if you need your air conditioning, it's probably going to be very hot, at which time the unit is going to get hotter faster, and I don't know how well it would perform in the summertime if it's 100 degrees out and you're trying to run your air conditioning. But let's be honest, this unit's only going to run your air conditioning in your camper for about an hour to 2 hours, depending on how much battery reserve is still left in it. At full capacity, it was showing me 1.9 hours that it would run my 900 watt air conditioner. Would it do that if it was 100 degrees out? Nah, maybe. But folks, I'm not going to try to use this to run an air conditioner if it's 100 degrees out. I've got a generator. I'll do it with that. But this definitely did run it, and it seemed to do perfectly fine. Yes, the fans were up. You can hear them now because I'm running almost 1100 watts into this heater over here to drain this unit down. I wanted to see how long it would drain. And while running this heater, I actually checked the voltage on another one of the 120 volt plugs, and it was getting 120.1 or 2 volts. Well, that's impressive. I've seen tests where some of these less expensive power stations won't do that, but this one did. It was allowing 120 volts all across the board. I think that's a plus. And it ran my camper just fine. It also comes with USB-C ports, 100 watt and 27, as well as your standard USB-A ports, and the DIN type or barrel connector type 12 volt ports and a cigarette lighter port as well. It can handle up to 500 watts of incoming solar from 16 to 60 volts and 10 amps, which, I'm going to be honest, I think with power stations of this size, they should really make that about 1,000 plus watts. I kind of hate to see power stations that are this big that only have 400, 500, or 600 watts that they can take in. They really should be able to do more than that, because you don't want to have to run a solar panel for 5 or 6 or 7 hours to try and get this unit charged back up again in an emergency type situation. It would work fine for camping, which I see as a great use for something like this, but as a home backup system, that's a little bit shy. However, there is a plus side here, which is that it can take over 1,500 watts coming in on the AC side to charge it up. So if you've got a generator, you can get this charged back up in well under 2 hours. No problem. In fact, if it's completely drained, well, in an hour and a half, in fact, under an hour and a half, 1.3, 1.4 hours, you could have this fully charged back up again with your generator. That makes a difference. Now, that 1,500 watts of charging can also be used to charge an extension battery, which you can add up to another 8 kilowatts of extension batteries using their proprietary batteries. Now, if you watch my channel, you know I'm not a big fan of proprietary batteries. I do like the fact that if you hook them up to one of these units, that the charger in this unit will also charge those up. And that's a good thing, because if you've got 1,500 watts, and let's say you added another 4,000 watt hours to this unit, so you had a total of 6, you run your generator for 4 hours, you've got this unit charged back up if it was completely dead. That's a bonus. So when it comes to this unit, I have to say the AC charging side of this, major plus. In fact, it's more incoming power than I've got on pretty much any other power station that I'm running today. So kudos to ALLWEI for that. I'd like to see more solar input for this unit, but at least it can do over 1,500 watts on the AC side to charge it up. That's excellent. Now, it also has an app that you can use to get into the unit. I haven't used the app to get into it yet because, frankly, once I downloaded it and opened it, it wants me to log in, and I have to select my country. Well, I don't like that very much. So I'm sorry, ALLWEI, that's not a plus. And while I'm complaining about this unit, because I do like the unit, folks, but I've got to be fully honest with you, I really do not like this AC plug. I don't understand why companies that make power stations feel the need to put in some kind of proprietary 120 volt cable to charge these up. This is ridiculous. In fact, if this gets damaged or lost, I'm going to have to go to ALLWEI to get another one. That's no good. Throw it away. Get rid of it. And hopefully I didn't just break it throwing it on the floor, because I'd have to get another one now. And in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, this is the standard type, I call these computer type plugins, that almost every power station, in fact, come to think of it, every power station I have has one of these. Some of them have adapters, like the Jarhead, to step down the voltage to be the correct voltage for the power station, but it still comes with one of these plugs. That's the kind of plug I want power stations to come with when I buy one. And since I'm picking on their cables, this is the XT60 cable that they give you to hook your solar panels up with. Well, okay, that might be 10 gauge wire. It's a little bit light looking, but you're talking about a 3-inch chunk of wire between the connectors and this end. What good is that? Portable solar panels don't come with long cables. Now, yes, I can buy an MC4 cable that I can connect to this and then connect to my solar panel and move it wherever I want, but I've got other power stations that come with cables that are at least 4 feet long, and frankly, I think all power station manufacturers that are going to send you a cable with an XT60 or 90 and MC4 connectors to go to a solar panel, they ought to give them to you at no less than 6 feet, and quite frankly, 10 or 12 would be a lot better, and 25 would be welcome. Because you've got to be able to put those portable solar panels out in the sun, and you don't want to put this unit out in the sun. It's just going to get hot. So if I had this unit sitting in the back of my truck or in my camper or something like that, well, I'd have to get another cable to try to run this out somewhere to get it charged up. So I don't, this to me is kind of silly. Now they also provide you with another XT60 with a 12 volt charging plug. And, you know, this one's a little bit better, folks. Let's open it up. So this guy here is a little bit better. It's about 3 feet long. But again, toss that out too. I've got another power station that comes with about a 12-footer. And that's awesome, because that means that when I need to plug it into something, I can reach. 3 feet, 6 inches, not worth it. So ALLWEI, I do like your power station. I do not like your 120 volt cord to plug it into the wall. I like the fact that it can take over 1500 watts coming from utility power or a generator. But let's use a standard plug that I can pull off of my computer or anywhere else, because if I lose that plug, or if it broke because I just threw it on the floor, well then I'm out of plug and I can't charge this unit back up easily. I'm going to have to go get another one. So I would recommend that that gets changed, and changed quickly. Having said that, I do like the unit. It has been continuously running that heater right there that's drawing almost 1100 watts last time I looked, and it's been going for almost an hour. Now I suspect that we're probably down to about 50%. Last time I looked it was at 69. That's okay. I want to drain this thing all the way down. It is running fans, so if it's a little bit noisy, I have to apologize. But I'm trying to abuse this unit right now, and I figured why not talk to you while I'm abusing it. Okay, a couple other things I don't like, and then we're going to talk about what I do. I don't like the rubber flap on the side that you open up in order to get to the plugs here. It's okay, but honestly, either make a hard plug or don't put one at all. I have a feeling that this is going to get torn off or something like that in the future, so fix that, I would say. It's not a big deal, but it's something to consider. And I think lastly, the unit does kind of look a little cheap. And I guess that's not fair to say to ALLWEI, but I've got several power stations. And of all those power stations, the plastic on this one, well, it looks kind of cheesy. So is that a major hit? No, it's not, folks. This power station, which is a 2400 watt pure sine wave inverter on a 2048 watt battery that they say has 3500 life cycles, which again, most of the new power stations will tell you 4,000 to 5,000. So I'm not sure why they're saying 3,500, but 3,500, folks, that means you could drain this every day for almost a year. Wait, almost 10 years, and it should be fine. So from a longevity perspective, that's pretty good. I also saw a review on one of these power stations where the guy that bought it, and he bought it, got it in, and it only worked for a short period of time, and it broke. So he got a hold of ALLWEI. They sent him a brand new one right away. They were going to back their product. And I like hearing about companies that are willing to back their product. So you've got a power station that really has quite a bit of available power, that absolutely is pushing out 1,000 watts right now to that heater over there, and it hasn't skipped a beat in almost an hour. And this is after I already pushed it with a 900 watt air conditioner on my Arctic Fox camper, as well as the heating and everything else in the camper, plugged into that 30 amp plug on the front, and it worked perfectly fine. Now I did have one little thing that happened when I was doing that. I plugged in my solar panel first, and I heard the unit whir up, but it didn't show me any wattage coming in from the solar panel. And I thought, okay, well that's because the unit's at 100%. Then I went ahead, plugged in the camper, and I started running things in the camper, like the heat, for example, and it was pulling about 150 watts. But I noticed something weird was going on. It was showing 0 watts coming in from solar, but it was showing that it could run for over 20 hours the way it was. And I thought, okay, how could you run for over 20 hours when I'm drawing 150 watts? The only way it would be doing that, I think, is if the solar was providing some power. So I disconnected the solar, and when I did, it immediately dropped to something like 9.5 hours or 9.8. And I thought, okay, so it was seeing solar. I plugged my solar back in, and it showed me 116 watts of incoming solar and went back to 20. Glitch, or just because it's first time use? Not sure, but something to be aware of. So, can you use this to power things in your house? Well, absolutely, folks. I'm running almost 1,100 watts through this heater over here right now, and it's running fine, and it's been running for nearly an hour. I ran an air conditioner. I ran all kinds of things off of this unit, and it did a fine job doing that. So, setting aside some of the negatives that I've already seen with it, I think this is a good unit. And the fact that it was still getting 120 volts on the second plug while it was being used at over 1,000 watts from another one, that's a good thing. That means that the inverter on this is at least robust enough to do that. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about that because I've seen some testing on another channel where they really push these units. I saw one where he put 3 1,500 watt heat guns on one of the power stations that I use. Well, I'm thinking to myself, why would you be trying to run 4,500 watts on a unit with a 2,400 watt inverter? Well, yes, it's going to show you just how well that unit works when it's pushed to the absolute max. But I have to be honest. Are you really going to do that at your house? Because I'm not. I never have. If you've got one of these units, you're not looking to try to run a welder off of it. You're trying to keep your refrigerator running. That might only draw 150 to 300 watts. Maybe you're trying to keep a little heater running because you're cold and you figure I could get a couple hours of heat out of it. Or maybe you're just trying to run your computer, your Starlink internet or something like that. Power's out, you're keeping your fridge going. It'll do all of that and do it in spades. And with the expansion batteries for this, you can build this unit up to a 10 kilowatt unit. That would certainly give you an awful lot of backup power. Now, I know if you've watched my channel, you know I'm not a huge fan of add-on batteries. I personally think that add-on batteries are way too expensive for what you get. In my last video, I showed that I could add 7,500 watt hours to a unit like this, and I could do it to this unit too, folks. And I could do that at considerably less cost than it would cost me to do, say, 2,000 watt hours with an EcoFlow battery backup system. The only caveat is that if you add batteries to a system like this, the internal charger is going to charge those batteries up as well, versus if you use, like, say, the XENY batteries that I was demonstrating to power a unit like this, you're going to have to charge those batteries up separately. However, if you've got a generator, this unit's going to get powered up very, very quickly on that generator, and you could use that generator to charge those batteries up as well. So that is something to consider. If money savings is something that you're looking for, well, a unit like this runs just under $1,000 for 2,048 watt hours of battery and a 2,400 watt inverter that absolutely is going to run at least 1,100 watts, no problem. It's going to charge very, very quickly, and you can absolutely put all kinds of things on this to get them charged back up, from your cell phone to a laptop to running a freezer and doing it all at once. One last comment about this particular power station is that it is heavy. It's a bit bulky, and it's heavy at 51 pounds. I do like to see 2,000 watt battery type power stations under 50 pounds. I think if you're young and you're strong and you can haul 50 pounds around all day, that's no problem. But if you're getting older and it's a little harder to walk around with 50 pounds and move it to different places in your house, that becomes a little bit of a challenge. So obviously running, say, a bigger power station could be an issue, but I will tell you this. There are power stations of similar size to this that are physically smaller and several pounds lighter, maybe in the 40 to 45 pound range, which may not seem like much. But if you're 60 years old and you got a bad back, 40 pounds is a lot easier to handle than 50 plus pounds. Just something to consider. I do think the big case could be a bonus because it will allow more heat dissipation, especially with the fan running, whereas smaller, tighter cases are going to hold that heat in a little bit more. So it could be a benefit to having a bigger case like this. And another thing about this case that I actually really do like is the handles on it. These are plastic, but they do allow me to easily pick this up and move it around. And I like that. I don't like it when somebody produces a 50-pound power station and it doesn't have good handles on it that you could pick it up by. It's important to have that. All right, folks, we're just sitting here waiting for the power unit to die on us. We're down to 9%. Says we got about 1/10 of an hour left of runtime running that heater, and we're pulling 1,145 watts or so. It's about what it's running to run that little heater. So we are going to drain this thing all the way down. We are now at 1.5 hours total, and it's not even really warm on the back side of the unit. So I like the fact that it really hasn't gotten very hot while it's doing this. All right, folks, we got 1.65 hours at 1,150 watts approximately. That tells me that this unit allowed about 1,900 watts before it shut down the AC power. And it says it still has 5% left. Now, I find it interesting that it shut that AC power down when it did, and I'm curious, it didn't completely shut off. Let's take this goofy plug that I didn't break, stick this back in here, see how it does charging back up. I have to be honest, putting this plug in is a real pain in the butt. I don't like it at all. I know I've said that already, but you just got to try to fiddle it around and get it in the right place. Okay, we got our plug back up. Let's go ahead and fire this up. It's going to get a little noisier. I hope you can hear me over that fan. It's definitely getting a little noisy. I've got cool air coming in. I got air coming out. It didn't really get very warm. So we got about 1,900 watts out of it. It did hold back about 5%, and it did allow me to turn on things like my USB ports and other ports. The fan did stop, but the unit didn't power off. So I found that interesting. Now, whether the fan would keep running or not, if it needed to, I can't say. It's about 70 degrees in here, and the unit really wasn't that hot. So it did pretty well, showing that it used about 1,900 watts. It took 1.65 hours before it completely drained. That's about 90% efficiency if I did my math right. Well, it did what they say it would do, folks, and I think that's a real plus. So while I have some complaints about a few components on this unit, I actually do think it's a good unit, and I really like this 1,500 plus watt charging capability. As much as I don't like the power plug, I do like the fact that this unit should charge back up in about an hour and a half. That's really not bad. I pushed it hard, drawn almost 1,200 watts for over an hour and a half. That kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with one of these units. So I think the ALLWEI is a unit that's worth looking at in that under $1,000 price range. I guess you'd have to compare that to, say, the bigger units that are more expensive, or even similar units that are a better name brand. But honestly, I think ALLWEI may be something that's worth looking at. I'll drop a link down below for you to check it out. And meanwhile, I'll throw another video up right here just for you to check out. And I appreciate your watching, folks. Y'all have a great day. The old Jarhead out.